Hello, everybody. Welcome to Agitation Rising, your source for local leftist journalism in Central Illinois and beyond. My name is Zachary Gitrich, and today I am joined by Estrella Diaz. I'm going to go ahead and bring her in.
Hi.
Estrella Diaz, she is running to be on Peoria City Council for the 2nd District in Peoria. Estrella, thank you so much for coming on Agitation Rising.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on here.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first off, my name is Estrella. Obviously, I'm 23 years old. I am a co-founder of an organization called Peoria for Palestine. I like to make music, and the more that I start appearing, the more you'll get to know me. So, yeah.
So how long have you lived in Peoria?
I lived in Peoria my whole life. I was born in Chicago originally, but after I was born, my parents ended up, because they were already in the process of moving, but then my mom ended up, giving birth to me. So then we ended up moving to Peoria after my mom gave birth to me.
And how long have you lived in District 2?
All my life. I've lived here all my life.
All your life? And what do you do for work?
What do I do for work? I'm a truck driver safety advisor. So I get videos, like 10 to 5 second clips, determining whether or not the truck driver is driving, if they're sleeping, whatnot. But that's pretty much all I do. And it's third shift too. So.
Okay. And so why do you want to run for city council?
The reason why I want to run for city council is because I know that since I do have I would say that I'm very privileged considering, you know, that I meet all the requirements. And not only that, but if I do have the privileges to make change, then I want to be able to go ahead and do that because, there's not a lot of representation, especially for younger people in office. So, being involved with Palestine, I was going more and more to city council. And so I realized, this is something that does pique my interest. And if I'm able to, want to actually do something about it, then I can, because this will also give me the experience, because I know that this is a path that I want to take. If I can meet the requirements and I do gain that experience, of course, I'm going to want to make the change, because I want to get back to the community. I want to get back to the city because I do love this city, and I want people to see, if I am in office, I want to see the beauty of what Peoria could really be, because it does have so much potential. But that's the reason why I'm running.
Okay. And what are some of your policy plans that you'd like to see accomplished if you get on city council?
I want to do more for like the homeless, because I just started partnering up, because I know they were trying to do a homeless ordinance the other at last state council meeting. So that's honestly the first thing that I want to partner up with organization, just have more resources for homeless people, because they are our most vulnerable, and I want to be able to provide for them, and be able to get them the help they need, especially with most of them being in my district, because I just went out yesterday with Lula, and we went to go visit some encampments. So, seeing that, I do want to help those people out, because, seeing what, Graham's stance was, even though he is in this district, it doesn't necessarily seem like he really cares much for them. So I wanna make a difference in that, and I want to focus more on them, rather than, brush it off or push it to the side. So that's my first thing that I want to do when I am in office.
So you said you went out with Lula, which is an organization that helps unhoused people in Peoria. What were some of the things that you saw, the experiences that you saw going to? I'm assuming you're going to various homeless encampments, or yeah.
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that you saw?
Some of the things that I saw, that since because of the current climate, a lot of them are hiding out in the woods. And it makes me sad, because there's still people at the end of the day, and they shouldn't have to hide away simply because, people up above don't want to see that. And it's like there was a tight knit community when I was there. People, they seem to get along, and they treat each other like family, because how people are treating them now with like the ordinance, they don't really feel as though they're worth anything. So to see such a tight knit community, it does warm my heart. But I feel like, more people should be a little bit more empathetic towards those people, and more kinder, because they're still people at the end of the day. But it was an eye opening experience too, to realize that sometimes I can be a little bit ungrateful, but going to those camps, it made me realize that even though, some things aren't the best, to be grateful for what you have, because, it is more than what the next person might have. So it was an eye-opening experience to me.
So, what are some of the things about the current proposed ordinance? Because it's going to keep coming up at the next city council meetings. What were some of the things in that ordinance that you disliked or that you disagreed with?
I didn't like the fact that they were just gonna criminalize them. Like, I understand you're saying that you're gonna warn people in a 3-month period of 180 days, and you're only gonna warn them 3 times until you jail them. I don't necessarily think that that's fair, just because there's only so much you can do to change your life in with 3 months. So I think that that needs to change. I think we need to find more programs to help the homeless in the house, rather than automatically like criminalizing them, because there's still people too. Life happens, and it could happen to any one of us, and it is going to take time to get us back on our feet. But I don't think it's fair to just automatically say, okay, we're only giving you 3 times to clean up your act. If not, then you're going to go jail. And I didn't like that, because there's like, they shouldn't be punished because of situations that occurred in their life. And they're trying. There's still people. They're still trying. They just might not have the exact resources or help that they need.
So, what are some of the plans or resources that the city is not currently offering that you would like to see the city offer to address homelessness, homeless encampments, presumably to get people on a pathway towards being housed?
More funding, especially for programs like Lula, more funding. We would need, you know, put out that we would need more volunteers, make it known. And also, there was one another point. Oh, have those things where you can, because I know some Gray Up, he was concerned about like needles being on the ground. You could put up, what are those things where it's like you can put in syringes and needles in their boxes. Can't remember the
Like
name.
those kind of like medical disposal box.
You can
Is
put
that what
those.
you're talking about? Yeah.
So it creates a safer, like, if you're really concerned about your citizens, take measures to be able to help the people that are also on the streets, but also they are your citizens, but the people that aren't unhoused. So it could create a more safer environment, so you can put up, those medical kits. You could also offer more, you could make more buildings too, to have housing for like unhoused people as well. There's a lot of vacant buildings in Peoria that you could transform, but I think they're headed towards more of a business kind of direction, which, businesses are nice and they'll get more revenue for the city, but I think we need to take care of our citizens first before wanting to put more businesses up.
So you would support the city somehow, either buying vacant housing and making that into temporary housing for unhoused people, or
Yeah, exactly.
and there's some places across the country that have pushed more and more towards basically forcing homeless, unhoused people to go into some type of housing, whether it's in a shelter or some other plan or program that they have, that's been created. Is that something that you would support?
Yes. Actually, because it depends. I do, but I don't want to force people if they don't want to. Because some people, they're not. I mean, you're out on the street, so you're not going to be as trusting. And if you're being forced to go somewhere else, you're not going to want to go if you're being forced. So I say, give it until it's. That's a difficult one, because like, you don't want to force people, because ultimately it's up to them. But you also don't. You want to create more resources for them to actually be housed. So I'll get back to you when I am able to have a right answer. I just don't want to. I can see where the issue in that lies, where it's like, you don't want to force people, but also you don't want them to be having conditions that, aren't the standard of living. Like, they could have something that is good for them, but sometimes it's just harder for them to want to, accept the help.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned Chuck Graham, who is the current council member for District 2, and he's been on city council on and off since the 90s. Um, what are your thoughts about the council member that represents you right now? He is planning on running for mayor against Dr. Rita Ali, the incumbent, and uh, John Kelly, who I like to call Mr. Growth. So, what are your opinions on your council member right now?
So like I said, I think I started going to city council meetings more often around February. So he never really spoke much. I didn't really get anything off of him, and I didn't really have any opinion. But I think when the homeless ordinance came into play, that's when I really got to see some of the personalities come out. And overall, some of the things that because I go canvassing and I knock door to door to see what kind of issues are present in my district. And when I do talk to my constituents, they will say things that, Graham also took down like a community garden. He bulldozed a homeless encampment. And so the more that I hear about him, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of him just because, again, you have to provide resources for these people, not take away what's giving back to the community and like for the community garden, but also with the bulldozing the encampment just because you don't want to see them. And I heard they were behind Landmark too. So it's not like they were inside of anybody. It's just that they don't want them there. So knowing that you're able to do that without a single thought, it does upset me because first off, there's no reason to take down that community garden because it was providing for the community. And to take down people's homes just because you don't agree with their standard of living doesn't give you the right to take it down. So from those two instances and how he spoke about homeless people, I'm not the biggest fan of him because again, there's still people. Just because you may not see them in that light doesn't mean that you should disrespect them or not see any value in them. And so I feel like I don't know. I think it's time for him to move out the seat, move out the seat for right now, or you know.
So you don't plan on voting for him for mayor of the various options available?
No, even though me and the mayor may not agree on like a cease, well, she hasn't really said it. She just said she wants to be neutral. Even though we may not have the same eye to eye on that topic, I do feel like she is very compassionate, and I do feel like she does give people chances. When I saw like the highly flavored situation, the chicken situation at city council, so it's like maybe we may not agree on one thing, but she is a very compassionate mayor. So I think she is going to be getting my vote for this election.
Okay, so that's an official endorsement from Estrella Diaz for Dr. Mayor Ali. I'll make sure I let her know that if I get the chance to interview her. So you said that you've been going door to door a lot. What are some of the issues that are of concern to your potential constituents?
So the roads, the roads are a main thing. They want more lighting in their neighborhoods just because it does get really dark. And I wasn't aware of this, and I'm very glad that I have been canvassing just because I don't really before I went out I didn't really know much of the issues besides the streets. But we need more lighting. I know that they said that they would like more things for kids because I was already some of the things that I wanted to work on was the homeless issue, having more resources for low income families as well as more programs for the youth. And a lot of them agreed that they want to see more programs for youth just because a lot of them start to roam the streets, and they don't really have anything to do. They do a lot of things that aren't necessarily appropriate. They will start messing with their neighbors. I also want to have more. They want more things, activities for families as well, and more so just a tight knit community. They want to be able to build community in this area too as well. But those are the top things that I can think off the top of my head. And also the homeless. There is a homeless issue in District Two, and I realize that. But sometimes I'll drive around the different areas that are in my district. I'll see a good majority of them in my area as well.
And so, what are you hearing when you go door to door about what residents are saying about the homeless population and the ideas that they would like to see done? Or, yeah.
Oh no, you're good. They agree. They want more resources because they said a couple of years back, and living here my whole life, I agree with them. A couple of years back, it wasn't like that, but more and more, I think, since the South Side isn't getting as much love as well. I think they're starting to my is that the right word, to migrate more towards my area, in my district. So because I mean my district's also Water Street, so it's down like where the riverfront is, but they're starting to come up more. So I think just have, and I think that's honestly why it's my main focus, just because they're not getting, and I don't want to say much attention, but there's not more people in downtown Peoria, so they're starting to come more up here. And I just want to be able to create resources, especially if I'm seeing so many new faces and so many people that are on the streets that need help. So again, just creating more not conditions, but resources for unhoused people, just because, it does break my heart to see that these people are on the streets, even though at some point they were probably living like you and me.
Yeah, I mean, and there's definitely been, in the past 5 years across the country, just skyrocketing homelessness. In fact, I believe I was looking at the recent Supreme Court case, and they pointed out how the level of homeless encampments in the country are the highest level in over a century. And we're getting to the point where we're about to be in, like, 100 years ago was the Great Depression.
Yeah.
In about 10 years, we'll be right about that, where we used to have these like tent, encampments that we would call Hoovervilles, based off of former President Hoover. One thing, you mentioned you want to create more resources for low income residents. What type of programs are you looking to put in place for low income residents?
I want to have like a not a I want to it's not a grocery store. It'll just have food, shoes, clothing, resources, and the good thing about it is it won't really cost much, just because my mom and my cousin are really big into couponing. So maybe that's something that I can implement with couponing. But when they are able to do that, they're able to get like large quantities of, whether it be laundry detergent, household needs, whether it be hand soap, soap, deodorant, any of that, and just be able to stock that up. So if people need it, they can come in, take it, and do what they want with it if they do need it. Because I know some things that we may see as not expensive, like deodorant, somebody somebody may be in desperate need of it. So I want to be able to come up with that, also have that where like the homeless building is, whatever we're going to put it. I'm still in the works of what I want to do exactly, but I know I have the vision for it. I just need to learn how. I need a little bit more time to know how to execute it. But that is something that I do, and also have
So, are
more.
you talking? So, I don't mean to interrupt you. So, are you talking about creating like a city-run pantry where these things would be available for free, or giving
Yeah,
out like? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
you're okay. No, yeah, exactly. So if they want to come, because I know some pantries, they're not open to the public, whether it be like late at night. They're only open on specific days because they don't have volunteers. But I want to have that so they don't have to wait maybe 3 days to get the necessary supplies. So I want it to be open maybe 5 to 7 days a week, 5, 6. We'll talk. We'll discuss it more. But I want it to be open to the public so that they're able to get it when they need to get it, and not when it's a designated day to get it, because you never know what happens. You never know what you're going to need in the time being until that pantry opens, the ones that are open at least.
Okay. There's been a lot of talk lately about allowing backyard chicken coops. Is that something that you're in support of?
Yes, let the chickens roam. Let the chickens aren't gonna bother anybody. You can, like, how I like the idea of them saying, giving them a couple. Personally, just let the chickens in. But if they want to take a little bit more precautions with the chickens, then yeah, give a couple of people license, and then you can see how that works out. But honestly, I feel like it would be good, in regards to giving back to the city. With people being able to have eggs, and just being, well, yeah, of course, but being able to have their own eggs too. It's just, I feel like it does help to build more community as well, and it helps to build community. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, so one of the big complaints that I heard when I was listening to the city council meetings is saying that they don't think that they have enough code enforcement people to help regulate that on top of all the other code enforcement things that they're doing. And what struck me as odd about that is that these same people that have been in charge of city council for decades have clearly not properly funded this code enforcement department. And because they haven't done that, people are going to not be able to have the right to have chickens, or there's going to be opportunities that are missed because the current people in charge are not properly funding these departments that they need to be. So is
Right.
that something that you're going to want to take a look at when it comes to various city departments, of making sure that they are properly funded so that opportunities like being able to have chicken coops are more available?
Yeah, 100%. I see the passion that the people that are standing for the chicken cause. I see how much passion that they do have and how much work that they're putting into this. So it's like if they're doing the work and they are serious about it, then we should definitely take a look into it, just because it is something that it's really all they're just trying to give back. And so with stuff like that, if they're fighting really hard for a cause that's not hurting anyone, it's not hurting themselves, then of course I want to look into it, because I want to listen to the people. All Yes, I'm running for city council, but all I really want to do is I want to amplify the voices that need it the most. I'm just to be I'm all I'm here to do is just be a microphone for what the people need. And that's all I'm really here to do.
Do you support the city buying the water company? Because this is something that comes up every 5 years, so it's inevitably going to come up if you get on city council.
I will have to think about that, cuz I
Are you
kind of
familiar?
huh?
Are you familiar with this issue?
A little bit. Could you like elaborate and tell me a little bit more about it?
So, if I remember correctly, about 120 years ago, the city created some policy with the water company to where every 5 years the issue would come back in front of the city about whether they're going to buy the water company or whether it's going to remain privatized. And most municipalities that I'm aware of typically own their own water companies, or they're the ones that are handling the bills and stuff like that. And during the entire period where I lived in Peoria, every 5 years, it would come up, and the city would vote to keep the water company privatized.
I mean, if it's a personally, what are the issues that come with it? Why do they keep like putting it off for 5 years? Because I mean, if it's not really causing any issues, then buy the company, because it's still going to come up every 5 years, and you might as well just deal with it now instead of having it to keep continuously coming up. I would say buy it,
Well,
but
I think it's part of, like, I'd have to double check. It's almost like part of like the city constitution
mhm.
of why it has to come back up every 5 years. So it's something that is like forced upon the city, and it's forced upon the water company as well, that they have to every 5 years they have to, because what they'll do is every 5 years is the water company will put out a whole bunch of ads saying why they want to keep control of it, and why the city shouldn't buy it. And it's a I don't know what the thing that would need to be done to make it so it's not coming back up every 5 years, besides, I guess, buying the water company, if that's what the city wanted to do. Um, but yeah, so I mean, it's an issue that's just inevitably going to come up because it comes up every 5 years, and there's usually a push by a lot of people, especially in that are more center left, that actually want to see the water company bought, but it ends up not being done. So
Okay,
yeah,
well, I'll
so
I'll it more, just because I want to be able to have like a good footing when this issue does come up again. But I think I'm gonna lean more towards buying it. Yeah, I don't see a reason why, unless I do change my mind when I look into it. But for right now, my decision is, just buy the water company.
and are you currently a tenant? Are you a renter?
No, I
No.
currently live with my parents while I'm running for council. But they are homeowners of this house.
And have you ever been a tenant or a renter anywhere?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. What policies would you put in place to protect tenants?
Tenants. Okay. No, no, no. Oh, for some reason I got landlord and tenants confused. No, I would actually have the landlords actually take care of the buildings. Because I heard a lot of the buildings that people rent out, they're not in good conditions. The tenant, like the landlords, they don't check on maintenance. They don't do any of that. So it's like, if you're gonna buy property, have it up to date and actually care about your tenants. Don't make the pricing too, don't raise your renting prices if you're not even going to fix the issues that are common, that need to be focused on, such as the plumbing, the sometimes the ceilings are cracked, sometimes the staircases aren't the best. There, it's just there's safety hazards. So it's like, if you're going to rent out a place, it has to be up to date, and don't make the rent overpriced, because it doesn't look like it should be that much, especially with what you're providing. So I want to do that. I also ex, ex, inspections too on the houses. So they're just, again, I think it's just mostly like, when I do hear from my friends or people that do rent out in the areas, that these places that they rent out, they're just not in the best conditions. That's all it really is. And I don't like how people will overcharge, uh, those people, and to live in these type of conditions. So I want to do more so of that. If, like, if you are gonna, buy out a building, take care of it and actually listen to your tenants, rather than, never get back to them. Because I know some landlords, they will ever listen to their tenants, and they'll just leave the issue to just be there.
So one thing that's definitely been increasing is a lot of out of state landlords, or people that are buying housing out of state. Wall Street that is buying housing out of state, and then so you don't have your landlord that's actually there. They might hire some managing company. Is that something that you? I mean, because some people would argue, hey, that people from out of state are investing in Peoria, or is that something that you would like to somehow restrict, or or not necessarily restrict, but disincentivize from people that are out of state or not within the community, that are buying these houses up and renting them, or not renting them, right? There's some people that buy houses up and they don't do anything with them. So do you have any ideas of how you would like to address those situations?
Yeah, like, I do wanna restrict it, just because if you're not living in this city, if you're not living over here, yes, you wanna make a profit, but at the same time, you don't understand the circumstances or the situations that are occurring here. And it's not fair for you to buy property just because you wanna make profit, but you're not seeing the reality of what is here. You're just buying it to make money, and that's not fair to the people that actually want to improve the city, that want to do better and live in better conditions. I want to be able to restrict on that. And thank you for bringing that up, because and bringing that to my attention, because I want to be able to make change towards that, now that you do bring it up, because it really isn't fair for people to be not even in the city buying property and taking opportunities where people could actually live in those properties and do something with it, and it's taking those opportunities away from them.
Yeah. So what do you mean by restrict? Actually, like if you don't live in the city or if you don't live in the state, like prevent them from buying,
Not
or more like disincentivizing. Like if you lived out of state and you bought this property, you might have to pay a higher tax on that.
Yeah, that's why I was like, let me get back to you, because I want to know how I want to execute that. I think I wouldn't encourage it. Like, I wouldn't encourage people from out of state, but I know that I can't be like, no, you can't buy it. It, I think I want to have certain requirements, not in case, but I want certain requirements if you do want to purchase a property here, just so that it's not just random people everywhere just buying property in Peoria and they have no experience here at all, or lived here at all, at the least.
And what type of policies would you like to do to make housing more affordable?
Policies. Let me get back to you on that one. I just don't, because the reason I want to be able to be confident in my standing of where I want to be confident in my standing when I do give you these answers, and I don't want to sound hesitant, and I just want to be confident with what I say. So I will get back to you on that, just because I need to fully think those kind of things through, in the sense of, I want to be firm with what I'm saying.
Okay, do you support lifting the statewide ban on rent control? And if so, why?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So there's currently in Illinois, there's a statewide ban on municipalities putting in place rent control, right? Like actually control, like being able to state you can't raise rent so much in like a certain area or whatever. So there's currently a statewide ban. There's been a push for a while and it's been increasing lately to try and get the state to overturn that, to make it so that municipalities can put in things like rent control, to try and like put caps on how much landlords can charge. So
Okay.
is that something that you support, getting rid of the ban on rent control?
No, I feel like if there's certain areas that aren't as, they don't have as much like money, I feel like there's there's a common income in that neighborhood. I don't feel like, the rent should be raised just because you feel like it needs to be. I feel like I don't want to overturn that. I feel like it just needs to stay how it is so that people
Wait,
don't
wait, wait.
wait.
I- do you support rent control or not?
Yes, my bad. Yes, I support rent
Okay,
control.
okay. I just want to make sure. So you do support getting rid of the ban on rent control?
Yes, yes, my bad.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I apologize if I didn't make that clear.
No, you're okay.
Okay, so you would support that. What would you do to bring about more economic opportunity to Peoria?
What would I do? I would bring in more businesses, of once because you like downtown is a very beautiful city, but I do agree with Gray about saying we do need to fix the unhoused situation, but we need to do it in a proper way. We can't do it so hastily. We can't just send them away. But once we get that sort of fixed, we're able to there's a lot of buildings downtown too that could bring in business. So be able to help the local businesses however way that we can and invest in other businesses other than OSF and other than Caterpillar. We need to have more in regards just more businesses, honestly, but not too much to the point where we're prioritizing business over the people. So once we are able to be able to fix the homeless and not I don't because we're not going to be able to fix it entirely, but be able to lessen it, then we can start focusing on the business aspect of it just because, if we're having, what Graham said, like defecation on staircases, we want to be able to clean that up. We want to be able to make it look a little bit nicer. But we also don't want to be, punishing the homeless. But I think just investing in more other businesses and also giving people opportunities to put their businesses up and support those small local businesses too.
So what like is there any specific type of policies that you would put in place, any type of incentives or anything like that, as far as bringing more businesses in once you have like the homeless situation more taken care of or resolved?
Um, Let me get back to you on that because again, my main focus, because we started the campaign about I want to say 2 weeks ago where I fully started, but my main focus has been just simply on the homeless issue and youth programs. Because with youth programs, it's like I want to implement mental health services as well and providing more for low income families. So those have been my main focuses for right now. So when you are asking me these questions, if I don't have a proper answer, it's because eventually I will get to those. But those are the things that I know what I want to do in regards to how I want to go forth. But again, in due time, I'll be able to have a proper plan for what I want to do for stuff like, the businesses and the water company. I just I want to be able to give you proper answers instead of, not really have anything to say. So once I do have that in place, I'll be able to come back to you with that.
And, and so you've mentioned youth programs a couple times. What are some of the programs that you'd like to see enacted?
I want to see because especially in this area, because it's a lot of people of color in this area too. Their mental health services are like one of the things that is a main important. With people of color, we tend not to
Hold
focus.
on, we lost you for like a couple seconds. You popped off and you popped back on. So can you start over again? I apologize, but
No, you're okay. Because I was saying usually, like especially when I was growing up, with my parents being immigrants, their main focus was on making it and hard work. And I know that that's probably how a lot of low income and people of color live, where you just work hard and just focus on the work, just get through the day, but not really focus on your mental health, even though, mental health it's something that people need to prioritize, especially now with the rising of depression and anxiety and all these other conditions that are becoming more well known. So I want to implement those, so the kids don't feel alone, and so that they don't have to face these things alone, and they know that their feelings are valid, and they know that life doesn't end, because sometimes depression does get to the point where you don't want to be here. And I think if we are to provide resources for that for kids, it'll give them, a little bit of clarity to realize that, life isn't going to be over. You're still so young. You still have so much to accomplish. And just because, your parents or your environment may not understand what you're going through, we still will be able to have these resources for you, so that you do feel validated and that you do feel like you matter in whatever you're going through. Just because somebody else across the world might be dealing with something worse than you doesn't mean that whatever you're facing is invalid. So I want to have more mental health programs for kids. I also want to have a community, like gardening classes, because my friend, she's a gardener, but she also helps out with this community garden around Peoria. It's called the Hope. It's something, she sent it to me, but she helps out with that. So I want to have kids more involved in gardening, so that they're able to grow their own resources. And also, it's just a good skill to have, if you want to. And it helps to give back to the community too, because if we're having a community garden, these kids are learning how to garden, then they're able to give back and also have this skill set. I want to have, programs that actually teach them how to prepare for the real world, just because, when I was growing up, we didn't have that. We had like maybe one class in high school, and then that was it. And my parents were super busy too most of the time. So I wasn't taught, the proper way how to do taxes and stuff like that. So I want to have programs for youth that do prepare them for the real world, is going to help them to land on their feet and be able to guide them. I want to have more like tutoring in daycare, program tutoring, day after school programs too, so that kids aren't just wandering the streets. And I know that some parents are single parents, and that they don't have the resources for their kids. Like they're not able to stay with their kids after school, or they need, they don't have anybody to help them out with their child after school, and they're working. So I want to have more programs that, lessen the load on the parents, so they're not too stressed, because life does get stressful. So it just lessens their load a little bit more. So I want to have stuff like that.
Okay, and you mentioned that your parents are immigrants. Are you a first generation American?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your parents' journey to immigrating here, and where they come from, and how that went, and how that was for you growing up?
Okay, yeah, no, no, no. So my mom came from Guerrero, and so did my dad, but he came from a small like suburb of Guerrero, which is called Tositapa. And so they
Where
came.
where 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 is I'm sorry. Where's Guerrero?
Guerrero, it's like, I think it's somewhere it's a little bit in the southern part of Mexico, I believe.
Okay, so they came from a part of Mexico.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
I should have specified that. They
Sorry.
Mexico. And then they came overseas. They lived here a little bit before having like because I have five other siblings, six in total. So they gained their experience. They lived a little bit beforehand. And my dad, he worked endlessly, and he of course he was just a janitor, but he worked tirelessly to provide the best that he could. And while my mom was going to school, because he was helping her out, because she also had kids when she was in school, but he was helping her out, and she was working at McDonald's. She was a hard worker. She worked at McDonald's while she was going to college, and had about four kids at the time. So they were hard workers, and they pushed my siblings to do the best that we could, to be better than what they had, to do better than what they could have done. And growing up, it was a little bit hard, just because my dad, he was the main one that spoke Spanish in our household. But since he worked second shift, I would rarely ever see him, only on weekends, and I would mostly see my mom. But she did some sort of social work where she was a translator for families that needed the translation. So she was barely home as well growing up, and so my siblings were the ones to mainly raise me. And so, with that being said, I grew up as a no sabo kid, which means like I barely speak Spanish. I understand it, but I barely speak it. But overall, growing up, it was a little bit harder considering the fact that, I did have six other siblings. We were in the lower middle class section, but they did do their best to me. And I mean, I would say they did their best considering the fact that I am running for city council. I'm running for city.
Where are you among the siblings? Are you among the oldest or the youngest?
I'm the
You have
youngest.
you have five siblings?
I got five siblings.
Okay, so you're the sixth. You're the youngest. You're the baby of the family.
Yeah.
Okay. And growing up, well, what school did you go to?
I
What schools did you go to?
I went to Franklin, and then my parents wanted me to get better, like, and that's why I also want to focus on like the lower parts of Peoria, just because like when you can see the differences between the schools, they wanted me to have more opportunities. So I went to Rolling Acres, even though I live in the area
Mhm.
code 61604. So I live further down compared to, I live near where I should have been going to like not Vaughn Student, but Sterling Middle School. But I ended up going to Rolling
I
Acres,
went
which
to Sterling Middle School.
you went to Sterling Middle School?
Yeah, I went to Sterling Middle School. Yeah, yeah, with Andre Allen actually.
Oh my, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
But
him and I are the exact same age. From like I think from third grade to eighth grade, we were in the same school together. So we actually know each other, but we've gone very different paths. Uh, he's a good guy.
no, no.
So what school did you graduate from?
I went to Central. I went to Peoria High.
So did, I went to Peoria as well. So
Yeah,
what year did you graduate?
2019.
2019. Okay. And so how do you feel that Peoria does as far as treating immigrants, helping immigrants out, stuff like that, from your experience?
When I was in, well, they're okay. I feel like they need to actually pay attention to their students. The reason, because when I was like in first grade, I told you I was a no sabo kid, but since I was Mexican, they assumed that I solely spoke Spanish, so they put me in
Mhm.
ESL class, which I didn't need. And so over the years, they tried to put me in those programs. So I think they just need to pay a little bit more attention to their students rather than automatically assuming that just because they are, they are not English speakers, like if they're a different minority group, that doesn't automatically mean that they need to be put in these classes. But overall, I feel like
Yeah.
they do well when because in high school they did well with the kids that spoke Spanish and needed a translator. So I feel like that aspect's fine, but take a look at your students a little bit more instead of automatically trying to.
Yeah, I mean more of like as far as trying to interact with the city, get city services. How do you think Peoria does when it's dealing with its immigrant residents?
From what I saw, I guess it just depends. Like if they get people that actually care, like if they, cause like my mom, she was one to fight for them, in regards to like actually accommodating them, helping them out with what they need, transporting them. I haven't seen it more recently just because I haven't been as involved in that, but I feel like they do okay because I see a lot of resources whenever, because I used to go to St. Mary's Cathedral and they would have resources for immigrants too, like whether it be posted up, and that's like it's more in the morning time they'll have like the English mass, and then the second portion they would have like the Hispanic mass, which would be in Spanish, and so they would have resources for them. It's been a year or
But
two.
that's the church, right? The church is having resources, but I'm talking about the city. As far, I mean, are you aware of any bad interactions that like your parents had in dealing with the city?
No, I don't think. I think
Okay.
they've treated them with respect, and they haven't really done much to make them feel uncomfortable or that and not they nothing that made them want to leave Peoria. That wasn't too bad. I think the city's pretty okay when it comes to immigrants.
Yeah, so you think the city of Peoria is fairly welcoming
Yeah.
when it comes to immigrants coming in.
Mhm.
How would there's been a lot of talk in the last year because of mass migration of Venezuelan immigrants. how do you think the city should react if, some governor down south sends a bus full of migrants and drops them off in Peoria? Like how do you think the city should address that?
Um, because I mean, they're coming over here for a better life. I don't want to deny them the better life. I mean, the, no one wants to live in the conditions that they're living in. So of course they're gonna want to be put somewhere where they're safe. I think the city, because they have a unhoused issue, I think it would be a little bit complicated because we want to be able to help our unsheltered, but at the same time, that's difficult because that's difficult. I want to welcome them. It's just where are we going to put them? That's my
Yeah.
only, where are we going to put them? Because yes, we want to focus on them and we want to help them out because of course they're here for a better life. We want to help them out. But at the same time, we also need to help out our citizens here too. We can't just, abandon them. I think it's just finding a good middle ground. I don't know how the city would deal with that. I think if I was in council, I would probably, I don't know. I haven't thought about this. I want to say have a building to be able to place them, but who knows how long that they're going to be there, what buildings are open. It's just a matter of how we want to proceed because we need to be able to have a building open for them if that is something that does happen. But at the same time, it's easier said than done to say, oh, let's just open up a building and have them be there. Um, how do I they would probably honestly, they would probably send them to the Dream Center, or I would get them into connection. And I know they're not homeless technically right now. They would be homeless, but I would send them over to Lula just because I know that they have resources such as like showers that you can take at if you don't really have anywhere, to shower. I guess getting them connected with those kind of resources too as well.
Okay. So that's really all the questions that I have today. Can you tell people how to get involved in your campaign? Is there anything else that you would like the people out there to know?
Yeah. So, more what I want people to know how they can help out with my campaign. Simply just by, following me and spreading the word about me. And that's all I really got to do. Cause I have faith. I have faith that, I will make it. I have faith. I'm not gonna doubt it. I'm not gonna question it. I have faith, in the way that people can help me is just by reaching out to me, seeing what I would need at the moment. And so far, I have a pretty good team, so I think my hands are okay right now in regards to that. And what would you say your other question was? I'm sorry.
Um, well, is there? I guess is there anything else? Any other policy issues we haven't talked about that you'd like to get across? But like how would they get in touch with you if they did want to help out with your campaign? Like where would they go to
Oh, they could email
do
me.
that?
They email me because we're still right now we're setting up my social medias so that people can follow me or like the pages. So they could reach me out my email, which is
So
do I
yeah.
say
So
it?
what's your email? And I'll make sure it's in the description.
Okay. It's gonna be estrella646d@gmail.com. No, but mainly what I want people to know is that I'm not, and I think that's why it's a little bit harder for me to focus on these policies, is just because I want to focus on what the people need. And like I said, I just want to be a microphone for them, whatever issues that they have that need attention. I want to bring attention to. I want to be working for the people because even though, a lot of politicians will say they stand for the people, they never really listen to the people and they don't really take into consideration. Like just visiting, I know I keep bringing this up, but just visiting these homeless encampments, um, you really just have to get in touch with these people. You can't make any sort of judgment on them if you haven't even visited them, if you haven't even talked to them, if you haven't gotten to know them. I don't think it's fair to automatically put some sort of a description on them, like saying that they're animals, like how Graham says. And that's all I really just, I want to focus on the people. I want to make them matter because they do matter. I want their voices to matter. So if I'm able to be in this position, then I want to do what I can. So it's mainly just whatever the people need at the time, whatever they want. I sound like a broken record, but it is true. Like whatever they need, that's all my job is just to listen to the people and to do right by them and to make their voices heard.
Yeah, and just to be clear with everybody, technically, Graves said that they live like animals. I understand a lot of people interpreted that to him saying that they are animals or stuff like that. I just
Yeah.
wanted to be as exact as possible.
No, you're good.
So, but thank you so much for agreeing to do an interview with us, and we'll make sure that your information is in the description, and so people can check you out. And good luck on your campaign to become the District 2 City Council member.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for your time. I appreciate you interviewing me.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for watching that interview with Estrella Diaz, who is running for the District 2 council member position for Peoria City Council. If you liked that interview, please like, subscribe, follow on all of our social media channels. Leave a comment for what you thought of Miss Diaz's answers, or if there's any questions that you would have liked us to ask her. We're going to continue to do interviews with candidates running for local elections as the local elections get closer. As always, you can check us out on YouTube at Agitation Rising or at agitationrising.com. Please subscribe to get all the latest information. Keep agitating, keep rising, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye.